Well, hello, and welcome to the MilVet Podcast. Your podcast hosts are Brendan Aronson, Tim Shaw, and Beau Higgins. We are military veterans, entrepreneurs, and investors. But most importantly, we strive to empower military service members, veterans, and their families. We believe that all veterans deserve a career that fires them up, a career in which you can learn, you can earn, and you can build a world-class network. On this podcast, we interview civilian and military veteran leaders who are incredible founders, writers, thinkers, and investors. My primary goal is to inspire you to achieve great things. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the MilVet Podcast. I am your host, Beau Higgins, and I have the pleasure today to be joined by Kristen Rheinlander, who will share what she's doing today and more about her journey in a little bit. For those that may not be familiar with the MilVet provides an executive platform for veterans that are interested to get into the private equity venture capital space. If you're a veteran interested in that and want to get into an operations or defense tech role, make sure and check us out. You can find more information about the MilVet at www.themilvet.org. Sign up and check out our podcast. You can sign up for our newsletter, see upcoming events where we're going to be in town, and check out open roles we have. So check it out. We'd love to share more information what the MilVet is doing. But today, welcome to the show, Kristen, and let the audience know what you're doing these days.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Kristen Rheinlander Liederman. As you said, Beau, I am the Director of Corporate Partnerships for the Headstrong Project. The Headstrong Project is a national nonprofit that provides significant cost-free, trauma-focused, confidential, barrier-free, stigma-free mental health care to active duty veterans, military spouses, and military kids. So it's something I am super passionate about, being an Army brat and an Army spouse, having Army children. It's just an incredible organization that really supports the entire military family in a much needed, not often talked about topic of mental health.
No, I love that. And certainly a much needed service for our veterans and our entire military community, to be candid. We need more support and more focus on that. Before we talk more and get into all the programs that you have at Headstrong, let's back it all up in the Wayback Machine to kind of how did it all get started? Now, obviously, you said you were a military brat, so you must have had a military influence growing up. But what was the kind of how did not that you knew you would end up here, but what was the beginning of kind of the military influence in your life?
Sure. So my dad served 25 years. He was an Army aviator and then transitioned into public affairs once he kind of, got too old to fly anymore, right? He was like, well, this isn't as fun anymore. So transitioned into public affairs and, like I said, served 25 years, moved all across the country. And it really instilled that resiliency in me. Now, as an Army spouse, I look at our daughter, who is 5, and I just see the excitement she has. Transparently, we've rescheduled this podcast once because we are in the middle of a move, and my sweet husband let the moving truck leave when we still had some of our household goods, a large portion of them, still in our house. And I was like, we don't have, what are we doing? So the stress from a Army family, from the parents, right? I don't see that in our daughter, right? As we're preparing to PCS, it's that excitement. It's the, she doesn't know to be nervous, right? When you're an Army brat and you're raised in the Army, like every new duty station is just an opportunity. And it kind of goes into when you asked me to be on this podcast of, oh gosh, I'm so nervous because you've had CEOs and generals and you picked me. And so I just think it goes to kind of how I was raised in never like backing down. Don't underestimate yourself. Like if somebody, comes to you for a reason, it's just kind of like, you gotta pull your boots up by the bootstraps and just do it. So Um, yeah, that's certainly a little bit about my Army background and how I kind of ended up here and continued in this lifestyle.
No, I love it. Certainly, as a guy that did 25 years in the Marine Corps, I and appreciate the life of the military brat and moving the kids around, and especially when they were younger. They definitely they embraced the new places and the new friends, and it gets a little harder when they get older. I will say that, but certainly when they were young, it was always an adventure, right? And I think that's a fun part of it. It's certainly stressful for the parents, but for the kids, they're like,
Yes.
"This is a new adventure, new bedroom. What color am I going to paint it? Are we going to get like it's like, oh, it's so exciting. And so good stuff. I love that. I love that. And obviously you went to A&M, so you had a military kind of school background. And you didn't do the Corps Cadet stuff, did you? Were you involved
I
in
did not. My dad did the whole, and that's actually what kind of led him into the military. He was in the Corps. Um, but no, I was a funny story. I actually started my college career at Kansas State. I was recruited by their equestrian team. And so I actually signed to ride NCAA Division One equestrian, and did that for 2 years before I ended up transferring to Texas A&M, where I graduated from. So just a fun little fact there.
Got it. Got it. That's good stuff. Good stuff. But certainly at A&M, you're obviously surrounded by the military culture, and you grew up with it, and you had been going there, I assume, since you were younger through your dad. So it's been part of your DNA for quite a long time. That's pretty awesome. Well, I'd love to share. I mean, again, I think we have a lot of veterans that come on the show, but I think it's important for us to have military spouses come on here and talk about their journeys as well. We do have spouses that we work with as well. What was your journey like post college? Did you know what you wanted to do when you got out of college, or it's most of the journeys are never in a straight line. So I love to kind of hear everybody's
No,
story of how you got from graduating college and riding horses even before that to where you are now.
sure. So I really took my collegiate athlete experience, and when I transferred to A&M, I was like, I was a collegiate athlete for 2 years. What is real college like? Like, what's that experience? And so I ended up not writing for Texas A&M, and instead worked in their marketing department for Aggie Athletics. And that's really where I got a first taste of sports, pursuing professional sports, what those roles could be like. And so I worked in a variety of different roles within their marketing department and really enjoyed the sponsorship aspect of that, and just the relationships there and the stewardship of partners. And so after graduating, I did a super senior extra football season, which I'm so glad I did, because that was the year that Johnny won the Heisman.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just so much fun. I was on a reduced course load, like I was just living my best life. And leading up to that last football season semester, I actually interned for a summer ball team. So, like, college baseball players will go to a different town, right, and play a summer league baseball to kind of like keep their skills fresh. And I interned for a league, the Texas Collegiate League. And the team I worked for was the Brazos Valley Bombers. And as a summer ball intern, you do everything from pulling tarp to selling tickets to stocking the concession stand and selling hot dogs to pulling out the inflatables and blowing those up in a 100-degree Texas summer day. Um, you just get a taste of everything. And one of the things that I really clung on to and enjoyed was the community aspect of it. So I actually ended up leading a host family program. So when these guys come through and they attend University of Missouri, let's say, and they come to College Station to play that summer, they are paired up with a local family that hosts them. And of course, that family gets, free tickets to the baseball game and whatnot. And it's a really great opportunity for the players to engage with the local community and the local community to give back. And so I really clung on to that, of the community aspect of it, and kind of found my footing there from a like player engagement, standpoint, and also really enjoyed the corporate partnership side of the house. And so taking these players to our local community businesses to do autograph signings and things like that. Um, so I was like, I really kind of like this sports thing. And Beau, we were just talking before this about the Montgomery Biscuits, where I had the privilege of working. So fast forward, I do my extra football season. I work for Aggie Athletics. I graduate in December. I take an internship, ironically, with the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. And at that point, they were the AAA feeder team for the Rockies. And Colorado Springs, Fort Carson is actually where I'm headed Monday at 5 a.m. to make that drive. So excited to go back 12 years later. But so I was interning for the Sky Sox and saw a full-time position for the Montgomery, Alabama Biscuits, and they were the AA team for the Tampa Bay Rays. I applied and I got it, and I was coming home. I was coming back south without the snow. So I worked in their corporate partnerships, very small front office staff. I was, the only person doing corporate partnerships, but just really enjoyed, worked for them for one season. Then saw a position online for the Texas Rangers, and I'm a Texas girl. My dad retired out of the Pentagon, but took like basically the civilian equivalent job, being the director of public affairs here at Fort Hood, and so it's kind of coming back home, Texas wise at least, and applied and was offered a job in Major League Baseball. And so I worked in their corporate sales department, client services, so more on like the stewardship side of these corporate partners, and did that through about 3 years. Incredible opportunities from like professionally and personally, and they went through the ALCS and played through that when I was there. I got to meet former President George Bush. I had some really great, exciting wins on like the sales side of the house, and it was just really fun. From a young 20s perspective, it was just fun. And there kind of came a pivotal time, personally, that I was sitting on a tarmac of a plane headed to a funeral, a family, old great aunt. And my phone was blowing up about a gate activation by one of our sales guys. And it was a gate activation, kind of giveaway, right? That I've done 100 times with that partner, and everything was set up before I left, operations logistically wise, right? And my father, who had a very important job, public affairs at Fort Hood, we all know there's been some history there, right? His first day was actually the Husan trial. So he has been, yes. And I looked at him on the tarmac, and I have a picture. My sister took a picture of me on my cell phone. Like, you're not, especially back then, you're not supposed to do that, right? And he was like, "What are you doing? Like, nothing is more important. This is not life or death." Like handing out they were like probiotic yogurts at a baseball game, like we're literally flying to a funeral. What you're doing is not life or death. And I had this moment of exactly that. And so I kind of made it my mission when I came back. I was young, mid 20s, that I was going to start volunteering at the USO. And there's a USO at the DFW airport that I would volunteer with as a young, 20-year-old single girl in Dallas, Fort Worth, Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. And I just enjoyed that interaction so much. Even just, folks passing through the airport, it just gave me a sense of greater good and feeling like, this is what matters, right? Like our military, not the glitz and the glam of professional sports. And so I was volunteering. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to work for the USO one day. Like, I'm going to position myself, I'm going to do this. And so I just kept volunteering and I just kept looking for jobs. And I ended up being offered, accepting a role leading the transition assistance program for the USO on Fort Hood, which is Beau is originally how we met. Your previous roles and mine, helping transitioning service members find their next career. And I finally felt fulfilled. And I said, I'm going to stay in the VSO, Veteran Service Organization space. And that's really where I've made my career. I've had a few different pit stops just due to the nature of PCSing, and kind of led my way more into like the business development sales side. I worked for a military staffing firm. And then actually just this Headstrong role about almost 3 years ago now. And that's really where I've been able to blend my love of fundraising, sales, frankly, right, stewardship of partners, with also the mission impact of delivering a service back to our military community. So that's kind of how I all came full circle to where I'm at today.
No, that's great. It's a great story. A couple interesting things that I wanted to touch on. One is, I don't know if you know Nate Boyer, but who started MVP. But I think it's very interesting, for whether you're an athlete or a veteran, you have a limited shelf life of a career, and athletes probably even less than veterans in many cases, and when they finish their careers, as an athlete, they're like, well, I've been practicing this. I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. And all of a sudden I'm 28, and like, what do I do? And I think veterans have that same type of, concern, or they've been doing something for 20 years, or even if they did 5 years. It's all of a sudden like, okay, my identity was so wrapped up in this thing, whatever it was, whether it was being an athlete or being a veteran. And when that's gone, it's hard, right? I mean, I think that's what you see in the transition process, for anyone's transition,
Absolutely.
but particularly that's why I think the MVP thing is always interesting, is because these athletes just lose their identity as veterans lose their identity. And a part of that is figuring out, how do you give back again? How do you feel like you have that team? How do you have that just sense of purpose again?
Yes.
And a huge piece of that, I think, that you struggle with is the mental health piece of that, right? Is just understanding how you fit into the world, because it's very clear, as a veteran, like, your rank, and what you do, and how to get things done, and all of a sudden that's gone, and like, wow, you just feel alone, and you don't know where to go. So I think it's so important what you're doing at Headstrong, because again, there's just a need for that when you lose that identity, to be able to re-find it, and to know that we've all been there. It's not like you're alone. I think people just feel like they're alone, they're isolated, that it's the first time it's ever happened. It happens to everyone, and to feel like it's okay to ask for help, right? It's okay to be able to say, something's not right. But we're so programmed, I think, as veterans, to say, no, I'm good. I can work through this. I'll grind through it, and eventually it'll be fine. You're like on a deployment. I'll just, I can make it. But you can't. You need to be able to stop, take a knee, drink water, and ask for help. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard for veterans to do that. I'm sure it's hard for pro athletes to do that as well. I'm sure you've seen that on both sides in the careers you've been in. I would love to kind of, talk a little more about what you're doing at Headstrong, and what makes it different, what people should know about it, how veterans should engage with it, and what's maybe the latest and greatest. I mean, tell us all that you're doing.
Yes,
There's a lot going on in the space right now.
I would love to. So with the Headstrong Project, I think what makes us incredibly unique is our model. So Headstrong, we actually have a network of over 300 private practice clinicians that go through a rigorous vetting process to ensure that they are military culturally competent. And I think first and foremost, that's like the baseline of our success is, as you're talking to somebody, they understand the acronyms. You're not having to lessen your experiences, right, to help somebody understand where you came from. There's already that baseline level of rapport established. And then from there, we also ensure that they are certified in the top 3 modalities for treating PTSD. So that's going to be cognitive processing therapy, EMDR, or prolonged exposure. And so you take a highly skilled, highly trained clinician who also understands the military aspect, whether it's a veteran, a military spouse, raised in the military, right? There is some immediate military connection. So the client, the service member, the veteran or the spouse or the military child already feels that level of comfort, right? Of like, you get me, you understand. And then we take it one step forward and we offer in-person services in 20 states plus Washington, D.C., or telehealth and in all 50 states. And the reason this is incredibly important is example PCSing, right? During a very stressful time, if I as we'll use my example as a spouse, right? And moving from Fort Hood to Fort Carson. And while I am still in Tri-West, right, my therapist, if I go through TRICARE, may not be licensed in Colorado, right? And so they can only see me, whether that's telehealth or virtual, in Texas. And the Headstrong Project, we have clinicians that have gone through the necessary credentialing, essentially, to be a part of the SIPAC agreement. And that allows them to continue treating their clients in the states that they are credentialed in. And so I can now virtually continue that treatment with my therapist during a very stressful, volatile time. So from a spouse PCS perspective, that's great. What makes us unique for the veteran specifically is we work alongside collaboratively with the VA, but we do not go through the VA, right? So where there's not a qualifier to care. So you don't have to go see the VA first and then get referred out. You don't have that long wait time. When someone goes to the headstrongproject.org, there is a little red button that says connect to care, and an individual can go click on that button, write their address in, confirm that we are providing services in those states, and within 24 hours, they will be contacted to set up an intake appointment. And they are butt to seat, whether that's a virtual seat or an in-person seat, within 13 days. And so that access to care is incredibly important because from anybody perspective, but especially a veteran, right, or an active duty service member, when they raise their hand and say, I'm ready for help, we understand that we collectively, mental health, you have one shot to get that person in and get them lasting, effective help where they want to continue treatment. And that's also something that's unique about Headstrong, and I'm very proud of our clinicians for, is 98% of folks that have their first session with our therapist come back and continue their treatment. And from somebody that like is a big advocate, mental health, right? It takes a lot to find like a therapist you click with, right? And it's so easy to write somebody off after that first session. So our clinical team takes great care every single week. They individually pair that new client intake with our pool of therapists, our clinicians. And so it's not just like a name on a screen and we'll go, throw Joe Smith to the closest clinician in his town. It's based on what he's identified, he or she, in their intake. Who do we have that may be best apt to support? So I'll share one little story. We have our partner summit where we bring in my role, corporate partners from around the area, And it gives them an opportunity to interact with our clinicians. If we have former Headstrong clients that want to give like a testimonial, right, they're invited to. And we had a Headstrong clinician that is serving North Carolina, and African American female who's was retired Army, I want to say, and her daughter was transitioning off active duty, was African American female in the Air Force, and we had a client, an intake come in right from our clinical team, and it was an African American female who was working through MST, military sexual trauma, as their traumatic event, as like the qualifier to how we could help them, right? And so our clinical teams saw that this individual was Air Force, female. This clinician had a daughter who is Air Force female, who also unfortunately endured MST. And they were like, this is the pair that we're going to make, because there's so much alignment, right? Just understanding the trauma, aside from professional, like let's just meet the person where they're at personally. And from a corporate partner and donor perspective, I just really appreciated that, to show our partners that that is a level of care that our clinical team puts into assuring that our clients feel heard and safe and comfortable, right, before they even start opening up about what they may be going through.
That's awesome. No, that's the match.com on steroids, right? Really
Yes.
figuring it out and making the right match and making sure you're giving the person and meeting them where they're at, right? And not giving them something they're not going to be comfortable with. And the fact you said that 98% of the folks you will with come back again, that's massive. Because I know I've had friends of mine that have, you know, tried to talk sometime and then he's like, no, it didn't feel comfortable, didn't feel great. I've heard that many times from friends of mine that have reached out, just didn't have the right just comfort, that the right connection. It's so important to be able to get them to come back like that. So good on you for that. And obviously, again, I think probably a lot of folks have heard of Headstrong, but maybe don't know the range and scope of the things that you do, that it is not just for the veterans, for the military spouses, for the military families. All of that is part of your charter, right?
Yes.
That's great. That's great.
And we're continuing to grow and expand, and frankly, that's my role, right? With every nonprofit organization, you need funding. And so the demand is there. Like, we have the data to show. We have incredible partners, whether it's corporate, individual donors, family foundations. But the demand is growing, and the more people that hear about us, the demand grows. I say, like, we're the best kept secret. And I would love not to be a secret, we were founded in 2012. So we've been around, and we have the data that shows the incredible success of our clinical team with the military community. But obviously, in order to grow, you need funding. And so that's really what my role is on the team, is to engage with prospective corporate partners that value the military community, whether that's utilizing us as a resource for veterans in their workplace and kind of offering that like behavioral health, right, aspect of it, or a mental health education webinar, an employee engagement campaign. One of the best and trickiest part about Headstrong is all of our therapy, all of our services are confidential. And so it's great, from a personal standpoint, it's great, but it makes it hard from an employee engagement standpoint. So really trying to look for creative ways that corporations can financially support a service members or veterans or spouses treatment. We cover, Headstrong pays for up to the first 30 sessions per trauma for an individual. That is our only qualifier to care, is what they're seeking out our services for has to be trauma related. And that trauma can be something that occurred in childhood. It can be something that occurred, you saw a car crash, driving to work. It can be something that occurred while serving, or it can be something that occurred after service. As long as it is a qualifying traumatic event, which, like, who doesn't have trauma, right? The aperture is pretty broad on who we can help.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's how do you find, or what do you think is the way that most of your patients or most of your customers, I'm not sure what word you use, they find Headstrong? Is it through word of mouth? Is it through advertising? Is it through what's the main way people are connecting? I assume word of mouth is a huge part of it. In the military in particular, if you have a good reputation, the word gets out there. But what are you finding is the most effective way to date for folks to learn about Headstrong?
It is word of mouth. It is our current client referrals to their buddies, which, again, I think just speaks volumes to the success of what we're doing, is to have that friend referral.
Yeah, I mean, and again, as you can appreciate, in the military, your reputation is everything, right? So if you're not doing the right thing, you're not going to be around for long in the military, because the word definitely gets out there. So good on you for that. As we kind of wind things down a little bit, Kristen, what would you say? Like, if you looked ahead 3 years from now, where do you want Headstrong to be? What's the image of what's next, and where do you grow, and how do we get the word out more? What's does it look like in 3 years from now in a perfect world?
We'll start small. I want to be everywhere, right? I want to in-person services in all 50 states.
Right.
But being cognizant that strategically, right, the strategic plan, there has to be funding there for us to go into a state and open services, in-person services, because the last thing you ever want to do is make an offer in life in general, right, and then have to rescind it, because our offer is a message of hope, right? And if somebody accepts that, the worst thing you could ever do is say, sorry, we can't help you right now.
Yeah.
When you've identified you are ready to accept help, the most vulnerable of help. So personally, in 3 years, I would like to see our funding, our corporate partners just skyrocket. We have some incredible corporate partners that really support us. And whether it's a very patriotic veteran, company, Patriot Crew, they make t-shirts, and they created this co-branded t-shirt for us last year. And they're just, two brothers down in Austin that just love America, love the military, not veterans themselves, but just, we're like, we want to make sure that you have the funds, right, to continue this incredible service. Like big name partners like Northrop Grumman, Costco, like all of these folks that you see every day just driving around town, having them align with our brand and support the military, continue to support and show up, is huge. So of course, I would love more corporate partners and more funding so we can continue to enter some of these states. There's such a need there. So just education of potential donors, connecting potential donors with Headstrong, because the more donor connections we have, whether that's corporate or individuals or family foundations, right, the more military we can serve. And at the end of the day, my job is to raise money so our clinicians can continue saving lives. And I truly think like it's such an honor for me to do what I do every day and get to tell their story, because I truly believe that they're saving lives every single day.
Well, I can't get any better than that. I mean, I love your passion for this space. It shines through in everything you do. I really appreciate what you and the Headstrong Project are doing for our entire military community. And I'm excited to see where this is 3 years from now. I have no doubt it will continue to ramp up and do great things. And really, truly, thank you for the time today. And I wish you the best moving forward, and hope our paths cross really soon. Thanks again, Kristen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. For more content, follow us on Instagram at TheMilitaryVet or on LinkedIn. Join us at an upcoming event or learn more on our website, TheMilVet.org. Feel free to email us directly at leadership@themilvet.org. Thank you so much and take care.